Yeah, here we go.
Welcome to the CarveCast.
Yeah. To the CarveCast. I don't even know how to start it. But let's just start it anyways. Welcome to the first ever episode of the CarveCast. We've just spent the last 2 or 3 minutes laughing about how we're going to do the intro, so apologies if it's not the best one. But essentially, this is our first ever episode. We have no idea what we're doing, where this is going to go, what to expect. We've got a couple of conversation points, but in essence, this is just going to hopefully take an organic route and flow from the conversation we're going to have about, you guessed it, skiing. So I think probably the best thing to do is I'm going to just quickly talk about some of the things that will be covered regularly on this, although I have no idea how regular at the moment, but hopefully maybe every other week or every 4 weeks, something like that. So
if you're still in the country.
If I'm in the country, although we could do it
out of the country.
We could do one by the slopes.
Now that would be cool.
Reporting live from the slope.
The CarveCast.
Yeah, on piste. So we could do that. Or we could even, if I'm away and you're not, which is very likely, we could do it over like a Zoom or something like that. So there's lots of options. I'm hoping to do it maybe every couple of weeks. But anyway, let's not adhere to anything right now. So some of the things we're going to talk about. First up, we are going to talk about like just general ski stuff. So how the weather is, what places are looking good, anything that might be going on that's of any interest that we've essentially seen on TikTok because we're not tuned into the industry or anything like that. So that's going to be our source of information. We're going to talk about gear because I love gear. So anything ski gear related, we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about skis. We're going to talk about goggles. We're going to talk about helmets. We're going to talk about loads of different things. And what I'm hoping for is we're going to maybe go initially talk about the things we own from a male and a female perspective.
Yeah. And
then give our feedback on what we've got. Certain things we've got that we don't use. Certain things we've got that we use all the time. That kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be handy for other people to know as a beginner as well.
Yeah, so because we've made lots and lots of mistakes on what we've bought so
Some
far.
of us don't use that.
So it would be interesting to pass that along. And we're going to talk about technique. I'm hoping to get some instructors on, some experienced people, some really amazing skiers, hopefully, if we can get the clout, which I don't know if it's possible, but I do at least have 1 or 2 friends that I think will do me a favour and come on and chat with us. Obviously, probably, well, not in person because they're teaching on the slopes, although maybe in the summer, who knows.
Yeah.
So there's that. Tips, not only from experts, but also from like us who are relatively new, and other new people. Like, it would be really interesting to get some people that have been skiing for the first time ever and tell us what their experience was, along with, obviously we can do that because it was only just over a year ago.
Yeah.
But it would be great to hear from somebody who literally has never skied before, booked a holiday, went, maybe didn't even do any training beforehand, and just how did that turn out?
Yeah.
I'm guessing difficult.
Very.
But things like that, and hopefully we can get enough broad range of content for people who have just started to people who are beginners, low intermediates, mid intermediates, good intermediates, advanced, and possibly even expert skiers when it comes to maybe the gear side of things, or even just information we've got about experience we've had in resort, in hotels, travel, how we've booked, different ways of travelling, train, air, driving, all these different ways.
Yeah, we've done the lot.
We have done the lot. We haven't done train though yet.
Actually,
we've done partial train.
Partly train, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't done like Eurostar end to end though.
I don't think I'd want to do that. Anyway, that's for later.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd quite like to give that a go. But anyway, so there's all these different things that we will cover. After this episode, what I'm hoping is that maybe we have like segments. So it would be like, I don't know, industry news, gear, I don't know, like different segments to go through that we can talk about regularly each week. But today is going to be more of an intro. Why are we even doing this podcast? why am I making you do this podcast? Why am I doing this podcast? Like I said, I've only been skiing for just over a year. So we're in February now. Our first ever, or my first ever ski trip was in January 2024. So we are literally 13 months outside of my first ever ski trip. So I've got a lot of explaining as to why I'm doing this podcast. And we'll kind of start there. I think it's probably like the best thing for us to do. But before we do, I've got to turn this air conditioning off because it is extremely cold in here. So I'm going to just turn this off. So there we go. The aircon is off. So I think the best way to sort of approach this is for us to go right back to the beginning.
Way back to the beginning.
Yeah. Which makes it sound like it was 10 years ago.
It wasn't.
In which case you would have been 14.
Yeah,
but,
baby.
Actually, it was a very short period of time ago. But we have done...
Well, I've skied before in my younger years.
Yeah,
Once.
I haven't.
You have never, but you've become ski obsessed.
I am ski obsessed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very, very true. Which I suppose is reason number one for doing this podcast is because I'm obsessed with skiing and I want to talk about it.
But why are you obsessed with skiing? What is it?
Well, that's probably more towards the end of the conversation as to the exact reasons why I've become obsessed. But let's go right back to where our ski journey started. And by our, I don't just mean mine and Holly's. I mean, and our greater friend group, my wife, my children, even my family to some degree. Because even though my mum and dad are older and they haven't skied, they have come along with us.
Yeah, they've shared the experience.
They have shared the experience, yeah, and loved it. And we even took my sister, her husband and their kids for the first time.
That's going to be a great story.
Yeah, this New Year's. So I'm not sure how much we're going to get into this very first episode, but I think let's take it right back 2 years and 1.5 months. So that was just after Christmas 2023.
Yes.
Can you remember what happened?
We went to your mum and dad's for New Year's.
Yeah, so straight after Christmas we went to my mum and dad's. They have a house in France in the Champagne region, which incidentally is exactly halfway between Calais and the Alps, which is very useful, directly en route.
Yeah.
But we'll come to that probably in later episodes.
Yeah.
And do you remember why we went there specifically?
Wasn't it because you wanted to find snow at that time of year?
Yeah.
It was very peculiar.
That was the exact reason. So we went that year for me in the search of snow. Now when I was young, I'm old now, but when I was young,
very old,
every year we had snow. We literally had snow every year, and I remember certain years where the snow was multiple feet deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lived near like a small airport, not one of the major ones, one of the small ones. And I remember one year, because it's all fenced off, the snow was multiple feet high up that fence. And those images have stuck with me. And I remember every year going out with my friends and we were playing in the snow. And we used to get like absolutely covered in it, soaking wet. But as a child, you don't really get cold.
Block it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just had so much fun. And I find it really... kind of sad that we no longer get white Christmases. We no longer even really get snow. If it snows for a day a year, that's probably more than normal.
Yeah. And it
stays. Yeah, and obviously, it doesn't stay. So it just turns into black slush immediately.
Gross.
So that year I thought, do you know what? I just really want to take the children and find snow and just enjoy snow again. So we went to the house in France in the hope that they would have some because they're more likely to have it than we are. We got there.
No snow.
No snow. So literally I said to everybody, I'm going to go on Instagram. I'm going to find somewhere that definitely has snow that's relatively close by, and we are going to go there tomorrow. It was the next day.
And we did. We woke up so early. Like so early. I think it was like 5 o'clock.
But do you remember how we found the place?
Wasn't it a reel on Instagram?
Yeah.
And he was like, I want to go there. Right there.
Yeah, so I went on Instagram. I think I just searched for like beautiful snow village or something like that. And immediately Grindelwald or we call it Grindelwald, but they call it Grindelwald, came up on Instagram as this real iconic, beautiful, snowy, mountainy place. Now, I'd never heard of any places in the Alps before this. I'd never heard of anywhere to do with snow or Switzerland or anything like that in my whole life, other than maybe Mont Blanc or something like that. But even then, I wouldn't have known what it really was. I just knew it was a mountain.
Yeah.
So we jumped in the car the next day. Me, Holly, my wife, I think my nephew James, my daughter Lila.
And that was it.
And we went to Grindelwald, which is about 4 hours from where we were in France. And my parents came with us in their car. We booked an Airbnb, I think.
Yeah, we did. We didn't stay in the town that year, did we? We stayed in Lautenberg. Was it Lautenberg?
Lauterbrunnen, I think it's called, yeah. Or is it Interlaken?
Oh, Interlaken.
Interlaken, yeah. So we booked a little Airbnb, stayed in Interlaken, and the next day, I don't know if we went that day and then went back to Interlaken or not. I think we went to Interlaken, stayed over, and the next day...
Went to ski.
Yeah, went to Grindelwald, and we just walked around.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, the first year, because remember, this was 2 years ago, so we had never even thought about skiing at this point. We were just going there to find snow. So we went there, found snow, obviously, because it is definitely covered in snow in Grindelwald. Absolutely unreal. One of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life, and still to this day, I still think it is. The most stunning place. And later on in these episodes, one of our episodes will obviously be about Grindelwald.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we'll do an episode per resort.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our experience there. And yeah, it was iconic, unreal, amazing, straight into snow, the most beautiful drive ever. Everything about it was unreal. And we spent the day there. And then I said to everybody, shall we try skiing? Because we kept seeing all these people skiing. I didn't even think about skiing before this point. I didn't think, oh, we're going to go to a place and there's going to be people skiing. Like, I didn't even link snow and skiing together, which may sound ridiculous, but it just wasn't in my mind. I was just looking for snow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that everywhere there's snow, there's people skiing. So, yeah, we said, yeah, okay, let's do it. So we went to a rental shop. We all hired the bits, everything we needed, didn't we? And then me, Holly, my wife, my daughter and my nephew, we all spent a couple of hours skiing with an instructor, a lady, I can't remember her name.
Michelle, wasn't it?
No.
No?
Not a very Austrian name. Not a very Swiss name. I think she was Austrian actually, but anyway. No, it was Federica or something like that. But anyway, we did the 2 hours in the afternoon skiing on a very baby slope. What's it called, that area?
Bodmy.
So we went to this very, very beginner area, the most minute. It was more of a hill or a tiny little slope than it was any kind of piste or anything like that.
We had like a magic carpet, which must have been like a 20-degree, that sort of angle.
Yeah, it was very minor, and then literally a tiny little slope. And actually, most of the time we spent on an even smaller hill that was maybe only a metre or two high, just doing that.
Trying to get pizza, and then French fries.
Yeah, all that stuff. So we did that, and I enjoyed it so much, and I think everybody did, that I said, right, next year we're going to come back at the same time of year, and we're going to just have a ski holiday. For the first time in my life, my wife's life, my daughter's life, we're going to have an actual ski trip. Holly came with us. My mum and dad actually came back the next year as well. And that was January 24, so the January just gone. And we spent 4 or 5 days skiing, which is a story in itself that we'll talk about during the Grindelwald episode, I guess. And
there's so many good stories coming for that one.
There is a lot of stories coming from that one. And maybe even get other people to come in and join us on that one, because it was an emotional experience.
Yeah.
Due to our inability to ski and various other things. So we skied that year. We spent New Year's there. It was incredible. Obviously, we knew the place was beautiful by now, but this time we'd actually gone up into the mountains, skied, spent New Year's there. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, and we will definitely come back and explain each individual one of these trips in detail on episodes that come in the future, and that's a really good starting point probably, is to do an episode on each one of our sort of little adventures. So from there, we came back from there, and I was just obsessed probably at that point, for the main reason being that just the beauty of it and that exhilarating feeling of going through the mountains under extreme challenge, because it was very difficult. Grindelwald, not a good place to go, by the way. if you're a first timer.
Yeah.
And we have since been back and been able to ski the whole mountain, and we still think that. So it wasn't like we still think that's not the best place to go for a very new person. But we'll talk about that more in the episode. I don't want to keep saying that. So then from there, I became obsessed, not only because of just the beauty, the exhilaration, and everything else, but because of the challenge, because we couldn't really ski it very well, if at all.
No.
I think we did 2 slopes, or 3 at the most.
It also scared me because of my wrist, but it scared us because it challenged us as well. So I feel like it made you want to be able to accomplish it, because you're not scared of anything.
No, and then from there, I just had to get better at skiing. And ever since then, it's been my obsession to become better at skiing, to the point where I've actually completed my level 1 IASE teacher training. So I'm actually a qualified instructor, albeit level 1. I'm about to do level 2 in a couple of months' time. And I've just been obsessed with technique. I've had lots and lots of lessons with lots and lots of different people, lots of amazing people. Some people not so amazing, not for bad reasons, but just because they weren't educating me in the way that I wanted to be educated in terms of a system. Met some sensational people who have become all of our friends. And yeah, from there, I've spent numerous is probably the wrong word, thousands of hours watching YouTube content.
That's all you ever watch every night, every day.
Yeah.
We're in the car, he's listening to a ski podcast.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I'm doing this. There's not enough.
No, there's not.
No, there's only like 2 or 3. So English anyway, or European. So yeah, I became obsessed at that point, and having good technique has been something that's really been important to me ever since. And I think that comes from where I've done martial arts for 20, 30 years. When I did that, even in competition, I always wanted to have crisp technique. It wasn't so important to me that I was like ferocious or even like the best competitor, but I wanted to have good technique. Yeah, and I think that has carried through to my love of skiing. And I also think that the fact that my martial arts career had to kind of come to an end due to age and injuries, that this has almost been a natural progression to have something else that's exhilarating.
Taken over it, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing is exhilarating as walking up to a ring about to have a fight with somebody, with loads of your friends and family screaming your name and everything else, as Holly will know, because I trained her for her first one last year. But I needed something to take over, even though that wasn't the way that I was originally thinking. But I do think that is a part of it. I then went on this journey for the last 13 months of trying to be a better skier, trying to achieve carve, hence the name of this podcast, because that is my real addiction, is the ability to carve. And I really am striving towards that, hip down on the floor, dragging my hand shot, skis at like 70 degrees. Just that image in my mind is so ingrained in my desire that I am so focused on it. I can't really think about a huge amount else other than the things that I have to, i.e. work. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where we're at from that part of the journey. And since then, let's just go through. We won't talk about them individually because we'll save that for later episodes, but let's go through and talk about where I've been and where you've also been during that this last sort of 13 months.
13 months. Are you ready? We're going to need both hands each.
Okay, so what was the first one? So we got back from
Grindelwald.
Grindelwald. Okay, so the first one I actually did. Do you remember the first one I did?
Landgraf.
Yeah, so Landgraf, we're going to spend a whole episode actually talking about Landgraf because all of us love Landgraf. And Landgraf, if you don't know, is in Holland or the Netherlands. And it's an indoor ski site.
Centre. Yeah.
But tell them a little bit about Landgraf just really quickly.
It's not your average ski centre, indoor ski centre. You've got, not miles, but you've got Hemel Hempstead times like 3 or 4, haven't you?
Yeah,
indoors.
on each slope.
On each slope, there's 3 or 4 different slopes.
Yeah.
And then you've got an outside which is tobogganing, and you've got like a go ape in the trees, food, bar, restaurant, and an amazing shop as well.
Yeah, really good.
And a hotel. You've got the most amazing hotel.
There you go.
And we stayed in like the penthouse suite, which had 2 separate rooms together, but had an interconnecting door. So it was great for all of us because we could, me and our girls and then Lila, we stayed in one room. We closed the door at night and then just opened the door and come say hello in the morning. It was great.
Yeah. So that, but on that particular trip, there was probably 6 or 7 of us.
Yeah.
But going back to the original one, I went on my own to Landgraf, and I went there and I bought. I had my boots refitted, and we're going to talk a lot about ski boots because I have genuinely gone through multiple pairs of ski boots to get where I want to be, and I want to really try and help people not waste money in the way that we all did, and not only us, the way we know a lot of other people who have just started did as well.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a real key part to these podcasts, is trying to make sure that people have the best chance of success when they first start skiing and not to waste any money.
No, because it's so expensive anyway, skiing.
Yeah, it is very well. I mean, you can do it
cheap.
on a budget, and we'll definitely talk about that again in future episodes. But so I went to Landgraf. I did a day or so there. Went into the shop there, the great shop like Holly was talking about, and had my boots refitted because they didn't fit properly. And when I was in there, I got talking to the guy, and I just said, "Oh, out of interest, what is the closest like ski resort?" outside ski resort to here? And because this place is in Holland, it's not near the Alps, it's not really near anything, but he said, well, there is one called Winterberg. Yeah, and Winterberg is this little sort of 30-kilometer long 15 slope ski resort in Germany. So the journey from Calais to Landgraf is about 3 hours, and then the journey from Landgraf to Winterberg is about 2.5, 3 hours, depending on how many times you stop. So I thought, actually, do you know what? I've never been on a real life ski place, except for obviously when we went to Grindelwald.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm going to try it. So I literally got in the car the next day, drove to Winterberg and skied Winterberg, and we will do an episode on Winterberg because I sat in my car for a long time petrified because I didn't know what I was doing.
So that's the third one we're on.
No, so we did Grindelwald. Oh yeah, okay. Landgraf and Winterberg. That's like the same trip. Yeah. And actually, when we do come to the Landgraf / Winterberg, maybe we'll do them together. That's a great place for people to go on a budget, close by, not that much travelling involved, very cheap tickets, like ridiculously cheap.
And
tickets.
all abilities.
Yeah, and all abilities, and super fun, like super fun. I still would love to go back to Winterberg to this day, and I will hopefully at some point, and take everyone with me because I really did love that place. But we'll keep that for the future. So then after that, it was Jade and I's anniversary.
You went to Alpe d'Huez.
Yeah, so we went to Alpe d'Huez. So I dragged her at this point to Alpe d'Huez for our anniversary, which she was not overly chuffed about, but we did it.
You made it special as well, though.
It was beautiful, and we spent about 4 or 5 days skiing in Alpe d'Huez, and I'm super excited for the episode on Alpe d'Huez because we went there a year ago, and we also just went there for a couple of days just now, and the contrast between when I was a beginner who could barely ski anything other than greens and a basic blue to now being able to ski the whole mountain is, I think, going to be really interesting for people to listen to.
Yeah, I think you're going to have good fun with that one.
Yeah. So, Alpe d'Huez.
It's fun.
After Alpe d'Huez, I got in contact with Steve, who lives in Zermatt and runs the ski academy called Connect, which we know now very well, and went over and did training with Steve, who also runs an amazing ski YouTube channel called Ski Coaching Online. And by the way, he's just one of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
He's amazing.
Yeah, anyway. And we, I spent 2 days training with Harry, who works for Steve at Connect, or with Steve. He was unreal as well, and we've since gone back and done other things with Harry again. And then I did a couple of days with Steve, who's the ultimate ski geek.
This is the holiday that you came back from, and it completely changed your skiing.
Yeah,
I remember you coming home.
Yeah, because until this point, we'd never really had proper lessons. No, we'd had like little bits and pieces, which we'll save for another story, but we'd never had someone of like Steve and Harry's ability
they are
actually,
incredible.
Yeah, educate you to a specific strategy, to a specific standard, i.e. in their case, Basie.
Yeah.
And when I came back from that, my eyes were obviously wide open. I'd improved significantly because I did 4 or 5 days full-on training each day with, you know, what I would consider to be some of the best instructors around. And then I came back from Zermatt completely in love with Zermatt. And Zermatt is going to be multiple episodes because I went there either 5 or 6 times last year in 1 year. And that's how much I love it. And there's a whole bunch of stories around Zermatt, which we'll come back to. But at the moment, let's continue the journey.
So we're on number 5, Zermatt.
Got back from Zermatt, went back to Zermatt in April.
And May for your birthday.
Yeah, and May, yeah. But April I went back, because this is an important part of the story, because this my April trip to Zermatt was even more evolutionary than the March one. For the reason that I met Jason, who's now obviously like one of our good friends.
Big up Jason.
Yeah, big up Jason. And Jason spent however many days I was with him. I can't remember however many days I was with him. And really pushed me on from that incredible experience that I'd had before. Really pushed me on and introduced me to whole different concepts and ways of thinking about things and ways of having things explained to you that just clicked with me massively.
Yeah.
At this point, and still to this day is always who I ask advice from, who constantly pushes us, not just me, you,
everyone comments on all of our skiing.
Always pushes us forward, compliments us, helps us, asks if we want advice, will literally send videos. Like, Jason is an absolute legend, and if any of you haven't seen his videos, Jason Left Right on Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. He even got an online training thing, and now amazingly actually works with Steve and Harry.
I know, it's actually like a full little circle. It's really nice.
Amazing. So there's that as well, and all of this stuff to do with ski instructors and lessons and where we went right and where we went wrong and all these different things. We'll put that into an episode as well.
Into another episode.
Yeah, because it's very easy to book an instructor and not have a bad experience because they're all pretty much good. But there is a difference between someone who teaches a certain like ideology, a certain structure to just a random Italian ski instructor or a random French ski instructor that maybe has just been skiing for a long time and he's a good skier.
Plus, some ski instructors, you book them and they just show you the routes. They don't tell you how to
they're
ski.
more of a guide than an instructor. Yeah, so we'll go over all of that stuff. So yeah, April was amazing. Met Jason. Jason's a legend. I then went back in May because it was my birthday.
And of course we had to ski.
So we went back to Zermatt,
which
3rd month in a row.
Was one of the best ski conditions I've probably ever skied.
And bear in mind, was this the beginning of May or the end of May?
The end of May.
Yeah, and I'm talking the right at the end.
Yeah, and
the late 20s.
Was so thick.
Yeah. So we skied, and we'll put this into another episode because like maybe add it into like summer skiing or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously by the end of May, beginning of June, pretty much every ski resort is totally shut down.
Closed, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas we skied from the Glacier Paradise in Zermatt at 4,000 metres nearly, all the way down to Plan Maison on the way to Chevinia, and we had 6 to 12 inches of pure beautiful powder on like the 28th of May.
It was brilliant.
It was unreal.
Sensational.
Yeah. And there's videos on my TikTok of that. If anyone wants to look, I think my username's Mr. Tybox, and it's just all ski videos.
So that's 7.
Yeah, and then we did like June, July, August. We went to Landgraf multiple times.
And Hemel Hempstead.
And
course,
Hemel
every
Hempstead.
Sunday.
Every Sunday we typically got up. Not necessarily all of us, by the way, but groups of us, depends on who could come. Got up every Sunday, typically around 5:30 to get there for like 7 or 8, depending on what time it opened.
We had to have the first tracks.
We had to have first tracks. Yeah, and we've made it really this really nice thing to do, haven't we, on a Sunday morning?
Yeah, all of our friends absolutely love it. Even the people that can't ski, aka Yasmin.
Yeah.
Although she can now.
Yeah. Yeah, since we have all started this journey, we have added a big selection of people to our journey.
Everyone.
Yeah, and we actually did a mass trip again to Zermatt, apologies, but we went back to Zermatt in November, December, and did a mass trip with like 11, 12 of us. People who had never skied before, which again we'll include in some of those episodes because that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did a few summer trips to Landgraf. We did lots and lots of trips to Hemel Hempstead, which is an indoor ski slope. And we made Hemel Hempstead quite a fun thing because whoever of us went, it was always me and then X number of other people or me on my own. Afterwards, we go to the Windmill Cafe. We always get like a breakfast or something. You can even have a fryer. You can even have a roast.
You can have absolutely anything you want.
You can, yeah. And even in my journey of going to Hemel Hempstead, met some amazing people up there. Ali, Dan.
Who done your level 1 training?
Yeah, and then I did an indoor training course with Warren Smith, with Gareth, who again is one of the most amazing ski instructors you'll ever meet and one of the nicest people, who's unfortunately had a recent accident skiing, so get well, Gareth. And then come September...
So that's it, we're on 7, so now 8.
So then September, we... Jade and I celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary. We went to Zermatt again. Yeah, and we renewed our vows in a church in Zermatt, and then we skied at the very top of the mountain in our wedding clothes, and we'll save that again for another episode. And then October, I went to the Kitzsteinhorn with Andy from Snow Camps Europe.
Okay, yeah.
Which was great, and I watch all of Andy's videos, his weather reports. He does a great podcast, really nice guy. If you ever need to train in Kaprun, ZMC or Kitzsteinhorn, contact Andy at Snow Camps Europe, and he is a good person who will help you right the way through. Did a few days in Kitzsteinhorn, which was a unique experience, which again I will talk about. So this is October. Oh, and then the whole year round, I'd been organising basically a 3 to 4 week solo trip, which ended with 10 of my friends and family coming out for a week in Zermatt.
Yeah.
So I went off and I did, I spent some time travelling to Zermatt, but I stopped in Chamonix, didn't ski but went there. Also went to Zermatt for like 3 odd weeks, and all of you and about 10 of our friends came over and we all stayed in a big apartment together, which was amazing. And then on my way home from there, I went to Verbier. I also went to a place called Metabief, which is not in the Alps, but it's in the Jura Mountains, which is a closer set of mountains. I'm going to talk about small ski resorts again in a future episode. So I skied a few places then. Verbier was unreal, absolutely unreal. What a place that is. And then, December, that's what we did in December. And then, end of December, off we went back
to Grindelwald.
Yeah, back to Grindelwald, where it all started. And I'd actually booked the Grindelwald trip a year ago.
Yeah, literally as soon as you got back from the first Grindelwald.
And going back there this time, having struggled so much and it been so emotional and so difficult and so complex.
We decided to take your sister who's never skied before.
We did, yeah, that's true. Yeah. But what an experience it was, going back with confidence, with ability, and being able to ski the whole thing, seeing friends that we'd made from the first trip, which we did. Yeah. legend, we love you.
Oh yeah.
Again, another ski instructor, become a very good friend of ours.
And especially Lila's.
Yeah, Lila very much.
Lila's first crush.
Yeah, definitely. Mai is unreal in every way, as a human and as a skier.
Who is it that he trains or has trained with? What is it? Is the
I think he trains the Swiss race kids or something like that. Yeah, something like that. He would have to tell us. But what a guy. And then from Grindelwald to now, I have also been back to Alpe d'Huez. Oh, we did Gustard.
Oh, we did go to Gustard.
We went to Gustard.
Where else did we go on that?
Oh my God, we've forgotten in March last year, Three Valleys.
No.
We forgot. We all 6 of us did a trip to the Three Valleys in March last year. Sorry, that's another one. And then in addition to that, we also did a day in Gustard.
Yep.
We did
somewhere else as well.
Gustard. Then we must have gone where did we go from Gustard? Oh, we went straight to Grindelwald. Oh, we did Meta BF on the way.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So Meta BF, Gustard, Grindelwald, and then I've also since then I've only just got back Alpe d'Huez, Saint Foy, the Tarentaise Valley. What a place that is, by the way. A smaller resort. And then went on to Les Arcs and La Plagne, and did those. And now in 3 weeks' time, I'm about to set off for another 2.5 week ski adventure, of which, again, the last week, loads of my friends, including Holly, are going to come and meet. We're going to do the Three Valleys again for the second time in March, a direct year after we did it the first time.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at. And then other trips I've got planned: April, Hintertux, doing my level 2 with ski definition, back training with Dan again, which I'm really excited about. And then May, I'm doing a moguls course again in Hintertux with a really amazing skier from who does stuff online. So yeah,
you've got a lot planned.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we've come from and to, and I hope that wasn't too boring to listen to, but we're definitely going to break down each one of those trips, talk about them in detail. Yeah, pros, cons, what we loved, what we didn't love, like everything about it, and we'll break them down into individual episodes. So probably starting from the next one, we'll start with maybe Grindelwald, and we'll go through and we'll say all of the stuff we can possibly say about those resorts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's end that segment there, because that was, I feel, extremely long and boring. And I hope you guys kept up with us in there somewhere. Let's go on and talk about something a little bit more interesting, which is gear. So in this episode, I'm not going to go into detail, but I'm going to give you a rough idea about what we are going to talk about with gear. Like me and Holly said earlier, we're going to talk about some of the gear that we own. So Holly, maybe even some of the other girls, are going to talk about some of the gear they've bought and owned and used and how they've got on with it, if we've got any female listeners. And then I'm going to talk about the same sort of thing from my perspective. So to give you a rough idea about some of those things, obviously my beloved Stockley skis. We are going to definitely talk about skis, because that is my favourite thing. We're definitely going to spend a lot of time talking about ski boots, how to get the right ski boots. And there's probably a million videos and podcasts on this, but I feel, having just gone through it in a real deep way, I think we can add something.
I agree, yeah. And all the people that you have now been to.
Yeah. We can definitely add something to the conversation, which I think people will find extremely beneficial. Goggles, we've got loads of goggles to go through, talking about how they are, what works, what doesn't work. Because again, much like boots, we all bought a second pair of boots, all of us, our whole group, lots of us, more than 6 of us, all bought second sets of boots because the first set were wrong.
Yeah.
We also, and that was our fault, by the way. It wasn't the people that sold them to us. It was our fault for thinking we wanted comfort and looks and all this stuff, which we were warned about. And then we also bought all the wrong goggles. We've also bought all the wrong helmets.
We just all went for fashion.
Yeah, and comfort and various things. All the wrong things.
Went for fashion anyway.
Yeah. And we've made some significant mistakes, and it's cost us. And I would really love to have that not cost other people, which is going to be a huge part of this podcast, is from beginner onwards. How does it all work? How do you do it? Where's the best place to go? What's the best gear to buy? All that kind of stuff, rather than having people just assume that people would know all of these real low level things, because we made so many mistakes.
We had all the gear and no idea.
Yeah, and we had all the wrong gear.
We did,
and no idea, which was even worse. I've also got lots of things like this, for example, which may make me look like a hitman, but this is like hard plastic luggage, and not specifically about the luggage, but I've travelled by car, by train, by plane, all to these different resorts. And again, we'll talk about the different pros and cons of travel, and worked out what's the best type of luggage for each scenario.
It looks like a battleship. Do you know the game Battleships? It looks like a real life battleship.
It's actually an unreal piece of equipment, because my biggest worry when I got a plane was, even the good ski bags, they're still just a material.
Yeah,
so it worries me that my skis are going to get damaged. Yeah, and they're so expensive and so beloved. I don't want them to get damaged. So that's why I got that. But anyway, we'll talk about luggage for sure. We'll talk about travel. We'll talk about gear. We'll talk about technique. Hopefully Jason or Steve or one or both or even more people can come on and we can have talks about technique, because that's the one thing we haven't really touched on today is technique stuff. But I feel there's a lot that we can all pass on, even the people that are even newer than us, to help other people as beginners, even from a technique perspective. So there's a lot that we're going to delve into with that as well. But for now, that is it. I hope it has been relatively entertaining. I hope I didn't say in a future episode too many times.
You did.
I did.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm really looking forward to this journey of this podcast, and hoping to help people.
Because you are so passionate about skiing, I think your podcast is going to be it's going to cover absolutely everything.
Yeah, I hope so, because
in depth.
Yeah, I really want to, and I don't want it to be focused around what sponsors want me to say or anything like that, of which obviously we have none. But I want it to be truth, accurate, and
from experience.
Yeah, from experience, not just what some company wants me to say. So hopefully it'll be really good information, not just for beginners, not just for intermediates, but right the way through. Hopefully we'll add some entertainment in along the way, because we have got some funny stories that we're going to tell, and some useful kit advice as well, and about all of those different things. So I'm going to stop waffling. You're going to say goodbye.
Bye.
I'm going to say goodbye, and we'll see you in episode 2.